Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So thanks for coming tonight. I know you're super busy, you're traveling all the time. He's really hard to connect with, but he's definitely connected because he's here today with us. So I'm super excited to have him here. I wanted to get things started with pretty much your background. If you can kind of start us back before 2010, where did you grow up? Was it Illinois? Give us a little bit of background about you.
Sure, yeah. So I'm originally from the suburbs of Chicago, Winfield, Illinois. Spent my whole life there growing up, and then after high school at St. Francis in Wheaton, Illinois, I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, where, as Naomi said, I studied business and administration with a concentration in web development. And during my time there, I worked for several different startups in the Chicago area, kind of learning the in and outs of different things, how to run an internet company, and kind of self-taught myself how to web development first, and then got into that with my degree.
Oh, so you're self-taught a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Wow. Is there someone or something that influenced you to be an entrepreneur? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things. One from my parents. They were always extremely hardworking, and always taught me good morals when it comes to trying your hardest and being persistent. And that was definitely something that I always followed. And another thing, while I was in college, one of the startups I worked for was Names.com, and my roommate's brother actually co-founded the company. So he kind of took me under his wings per se, and kind of became my mentor. And taught me a lot about the in and outs of working in an internet-based company.
So what are some of your talents? Obviously you have some web development, but there's definitely some talents because you guys are making money and doing really well with what you've accomplished so far.
Sure, I think I've always kind of been I like to say a creative problem solver, and I think that's really kind of what led me into web development to start, and then as we kind of grew the company, being able to bring on more people who could handle those type of tasks. It's always tough to give up something that you are controlling, kind of as your baby per se. And it took me some time to kind of hand that over to our CTO. But once I did that, it allowed me to kind of focus on new areas of the company and help continue our growth.
So how did you come up with the idea for RantSports? Because that was actually the first stage of your company. Right,
so RantSports, I bought the domain actually about a year and a half, 2 years before we even started the company. Just was buying up domains for fun and just grabbed it, and was kind of messing around with it. I started a small blog and had a couple of writers in college writing for it, but it wasn't really going too far. And then in October of 2009, my business partner Brett reached out to me, and Brett had a group of writers. Brett, a little bit about Brett. Brett was supposed to be a top draft pick out of high school for baseball. He blew out his shoulder, ended up going through 3 surgeries throughout college, and just kind of never made it back, unfortunately. But always a big sports fan, and we played baseball and basketball and stuff growing up together. And he reached out to me in about October 2009. He had a group of 5 writers, and they were interested in doing something digitally in the sports vertical, writing content. And our moms are really close friends, and they were out walking one day, and they were telling each other about what we wanted to do. And so Brett then reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'd love to start a baseball site." My mom said, "You do stuff with this. How can we work together?" And within actually about 4 to 6 weeks in November, we launched kind of our first site together. It was called BringingHeat.com. It was just covering pro baseball. And within 3 months, we were getting some traction. We had a partnership with Fox Sports, and we had a lot of the writers that were working for us currently, but others were like, "I'd love to write about football or basketball or some other sports." And so we kind of were like, "Well, I have this domain, RantSports, kind of sitting here. Let's use that and create a sports network." So we took that and started hiring writers across all the different verticals. Originally kind of growing out a sports network of sites. Over the first year and a half, we grew the network to about 155 sports sites, all different domains at that point. And we were managing 155 websites, 65 writers, and just kind of having branding for 135 sites, 155 sites, just kind of tough. And at that point, we kind of raised a really small round of angel funding and condensed all the sites down to just rantsports.com.
Wow, that seems like a big undertaking to manage that many different sites and all the content.
Yeah,
I mean, just content for
on.
one site is a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just Brett and I really full time at that point too, and so it was a lot. And then even just working with Fox Sports at the time too, they were just kind of like, marketing this, trying to get advertising, dollars lined up. It's just tough to promote or market 135 sites.
And how did you make that connection with Fox Sports? Like, how did that happen?
So they had a company that they own called Yardbarker, which was kind of a sports blog network. So we originally kind of joined that when we first got started. I had a site in it previously, a year before we started the company, so I had some relationships there. And so once Brett came on board, because I didn't really like to write much, so I had all these sites before he came on board and just wasn't writing much. So after he came on board with all the writers, it kind of just worked out from there.
And like, for example, like one site, like how much content did you pour into a site? Like, was it like?
It really kind of depended on a few different things. Being in sports, we're really focused on news and the breaking stories as much as possible. We had 65 writers covering, the 155 sites. A couple of them were all independent contractors, but a couple of them worked, some good hours for us to get the company started. And they really focused on, big markets, where the stories are going to generate the most traffic and most influence. And then with our relationship with Fox, we had a back and forth conversation on when and what might be good pieces for them to help promote.
Wow. So you mentioned your childhood friend Brett Rosin, and my question to you is, like, growing up with someone and then going into business with them, how was that? Did you guys have challenges? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, so I mean, there's certainly challenges all the time. We say sometimes it's almost like being married. It's constant. You're with them 24/7, especially when we're first starting the company, working, nonstop hours. But it's definitely, it's helped out. We challenge each other. We're not, afraid to question each other. It really helps us kind of play devil's advocate with our ideas. So I think it's really helped us move the company along, kind of having that relationship.
Right, and you both have the love for sports, so
Absolutely.
that was important. All startups have various ups and downs. Can you share an experience maybe with us that you might have learned from, or?
Yeah, I'd say, one of the biggest challenges is just, really when you're getting started, you really have to, grind and work those hard hours. We were probably working 100+ hours a week for the first, year and a half and not really paying ourselves. I don't think we paid ourselves for the first 8 months. But it was, something that we really believed in, something we were passionate about, and just, we were persistent, just kept pushing, knowing that, the harder we worked, at some point something, was going to hit the right string with someone, and that happened with Fox Sports helping us out, and then raising our first angel round in August 2011.
All right. Can you talk to us a little bit about your kind of the different levels that when you started to raise? Because you originally raised seed, about 40,000.
We've raised 4 rounds so far. We raised kind of an angel round in August 2011 of 40,000. That was from a couple kind of family friends that were helping us with different marketing things. They saw kind of the path that we were on and wanted to help us that was when we were making that transition from 155 sites down to 1. We needed a little capital to help with a few different things to kind of make that happen. So they kind of stepped in, gave us some small round of funding. Then, after we did that, the site grew from about the network, 155 sites went from about 300,000 uniques to about 1.1, 1.2 million in about 6 months. And that's when kind of some more friends and family, and some of their friends kind of really saw where we were going. And so February 2011, we raised basically a seed round of just over 300,000 in funding. Used that to kind of take the business to the next level. We kind of really got our first office, hired some real first-time employees, paid ourselves a salary for once, and took the company over the next year and a half or so to about 8 to 10 million uniques per month. And that's when we saw the opportunity to kind of expand outside of just sports. So in November of 2013, we raised a round of $3 million from Hudson Bay Capital in New York, and the former CEO and chairman and co-founder of InterClick, which was bought by Yahoo. They came in and combined to help us raise $3 million in November of 2013. That's when we launched 2 of the newer sites, RantLifestyle.com and RantChic.com. And within 3 months, those grew to about 25 million uniques. And they had kind of committed to helping us raise another round within 6 months if we hit some milestones. So in a year ago, actually, this month, we raised another $4 million from the same group, plus the former CEO and chairman of Rant Media. He's helped in and became one of our advisors as well.
That's amazing. So that being said, can you give any advice to the audience regarding like how to like connect with those investors and maybe some tips that might be useful to them?
Yeah, sure. A couple different things. I mean, one, it's definitely all about networking and being at events like this tonight and going to industry events and putting yourself out there so that way you can be seen, your company can be seen, and really kind of making your own kind of voice in the market. And two is just kind of finding the right type of investor. There's we like to call it, there's either strategic money or there's dumb money. Strategic money is someone who's going to help you guys grow the business outside of just the funding. Where dumb money is just someone who's going to put some cash there and then let you kind of run it, and that can always be great, but if someone can come in and give you money plus contacts and connections, it definitely helps out.
Awesome. So startup monetization and revenue are becoming more and more important for today's entrepreneurs, so that maybe they don't have to go and get investment right away. With all of your success, is there any strategy or like any kind of like, do you set goals?
Yeah, we definitely set goals. Early on, I don't think we set revenue goals per se, but being in media, it's a little bit easier to monetize because we can just go with partnerships like Google, who will help us monetize our websites. But there's more sources of revenue that we can drive off of just advertising on our sites, and we always kind of knew that. So it's always been a focus, but we've always been kind of trying to innovate and find new ways to drive new revenue across our properties. And the earlier you start, the more testing you can do. You don't want to be obtrusive with it, but just test different things out. You'll kind of find what works.
A team plays a really important part in the success of a startup. How did you build your team?
Yeah, so kind of the core four of us that kind of really were in the beginning, I think we all have somewhat of different personalities and kind of see things differently, and I think that's allowed us really to kind of work together to hire the right people. We all doing interview processes and talking to other companies that helps us kind of find the right people. Knowing how each other's work, we can kind of help find the right people for each kind of our divisions.
If you had a chance to start over, is there anything that you might do differently?
That's a tough one. Really, I'd say when you have the opportunity to take funding. You look at the way you take it, definitely look for the strategic partners, consider what's going to help really grow the company to the next stage. You can work 100+ hour weeks, but that's not always smart working, I'd say. So when you have the opportunity, as long as it's the right deal, the right relationship, the right partnership, definitely consider it hard.
Yeah, really think about it, because you never know. You want to make sure you like the person.
Absolutely.
Content is key to the success of your companies. How do you find the right people? Like, where do you recruit them from? How do you find great writers? Because I know a lot of startups, they have difficulty like writing their own content,
Sure.
But how would they find someone?
Yeah, I think what helped us in the beginning was, we're sports fans and passionate about it, so we knew, when talking to other sports fans, if they knew what they were talking about or not. But we really just kind of focused on trying to find creative people who have, a unique voice. Someone who's going to come in and create content that's going to help drive audience and engagement, really. Especially with our name, Rant, it's always been about kind of drawing emotion from the readers, drawing them to share or comment or feel some kind of emotions and draw them to come back.
So do the people that you recruit, do they have to like go through like this writing? Do you have like some kind of test they have to take?
There's a little bit of a process of submitting content, being reviewed by the different, depending which site they're applying for, an approval process that they go through, just making sure that one, that they can write well and grammar, and then that they have knowledge of what they're going to be writing about.
Now, just last year, Rant Inc. moved here. They transitioned from Illinois to Irvine, their headquarters here. What attracted you to come to Orange County, besides the great weather?
Yeah, a couple things. So, we actually, we started the company while I was in college still, so we were working out of our dorm rooms, and then, that transitioned to our parents' basements, and then, after a year of that, into some office space, and then we actually, after we raised our round of funding in February 2012, we actually moved the company to San Francisco. We spent 9 months up there, just mainly because Yardbarker was kind of our partner there, and they were based there. And so we spent 9 months there, and that's really when we grew the site from 1 million to 9, 10 million people per month. And while we were there, we formed kind of some new partnerships down in the LA area, we were down here way more often. It just kind of made more sense. And then, just kind of in terms of media, media and tech, it's either kind of New York or LA area. And when we were looking out in LA, we kind of fell in love with Orange County. And we actually first worked out of a house in Laguna Beach for about 9 months before moving into the office space right down the road.
That's great. Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Is there any one quote or word of advice that you could give us today?
Yeah, so there's a quote that we've always kind of lived off of or kind of followed since the beginning by Ralph Emerson. It's, don't go where there is a path, go where the path may not lead, or something like that. But it was always the idea that, don't just follow the path. Try to kind of carve out your own space in the market, and don't be afraid to go off path. And that's usually what you'll find, either success or just kind of new opportunities.
That's great. So the last question I have for you tonight is, how do you hope to continue to impact the digital media industry?
Yeah, I think, we really want to continue to just create, for one, just obviously create engaging content, but as, everything's developing and changing, especially with mobile and smartphones and people being on the go, they're engaging with content in new ways. So it's just kind of continuing to find new ways to innovate, with mobile and technology and create, more engaging content that's easily consumable for the consumers, while they're on the go, because a lot of them are no longer sitting at computers engaging content or watching video. They're on the go. They're, not driving. Hopefully, they're in subways or on, in Ubers. So just, creating content that's easily tangible while they're moving.
Basically, read responsibly.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. So if we could give him a big round of applause. Thank you, Grant.